All right, let's talk warm-ups. 3Ps warm-up. You guys all know these ones already. We're just going to add them specifically to the warm-up. Position prep, pattern prep, performance prep. It's that simple, right? We're going to look at mobilizing and getting into good alignment within our positions. Then we're going to start to mimic the patterns that are going to be used during that day. And then we're going to potentiate, we're going to build some power, get a little sweat, get a little bit of breathing, make sure that we're wired to fire, ready to rock and roll for the performance prep. Let's break them down. All right, first P is position prep. So the purpose of position prep is to restore a few things. We're going to look at restoring joint motion, becoming more positionally aware, start to make some of that mind-muscle connection. If we ask you at the beginning of the session, hey, Miss Jones, ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, neck, how's the body feeling? What should I be aware of before we start the session? Then they've answered that question, but also you're going to see a little bit more individually and specifically what are they feeling like, make that connect for them. Right? So you're restoring some joint motion, some tissue motion, you're giving them a little more positional awareness of what maybe feels a little bit wonky or feels nice and loosey-goosey. You're restoring some alignment and some control of these tissues, right, of these joints. The principles that we want to look in this section of the warm-up are that it's going to be general, right? We don't want to be too specific as far as, like, if we're going to be doing lunges today, in this section, I don't need to be doing the specific movement pattern just yet. I do want to be thinking what joints and tissues are necessary for a lunge to occur well. I need to think about our toes, our ankles, our knees, our hips, our spine. Can we move through these positions and start to loosen up some of those tissues so that when she does go to lunge, that she doesn't say, my big toe, right? Or she's done some of that prep here in the original part. So general, we're going to look more dynamic over static stretching. We don't want to do a ton of static stretching prior to lifts, right? And this time, let's start to be a little bit more controlled dynamic. It's not going to be out of control, crazy type dynamic stretches, but give some movement to the process. We want to prep the joints and the tissues for the patterns of the day, like I said. So if it is a lunge, if it is a deadlift, if it's a push-up, right? Make it make sense for the work that you're about to do. And then sequences, we have a few different ways that we can approach this. I think that there are times and places for each. We can use different ways to do this, right? We can go top down, we can go neck to shoulders to T-spine to go through the whole hips, knees, ankles, toes. We can go bottom up, start from the bottom of the ground, work our way up through. We can also go center out. Sometimes if you start with a cat-cow, that's a spine first movement, right? We're getting the spine moved up, move through some ranges, and then you can go to the hips, you can go to the shoulders, you can go to the knees, to the neck. You can go that direction. So you have some options on how you do it, but just make sure that we're spending 3 to 4 minutes. I didn't really write that, but 3 to 4 minutes on all these to accomplish the goal of prepping your positions. Pattern prep. Again, 3 to 4 minutes. The purpose of the pattern prep is to bridge the mobility that we did in the positional prep into the coordinated full body moves, the athletic moves that you're going to see in their training session. So it's going to go, take those individual joints, individual areas of our body, of our tissues, and then start to translate it to activating these movements, okay? So that's number one. We want to connect the chains, right? Sometimes you can think of it as dots, the chains, the posterior chain, anterior chain. There are different lines of connection throughout our body. We want to connect the dots on these. We're going to elevate our heart rate. We want to elevate our temperature and our respiratory rate. Get things pumped up a little bit. We should start to break a sweat a little bit. We should see that our heart rate's increasing, our body temperature literally warming up the tissues, and then also just breathing a little bit. Right? If you're not breathing at this point in our session, then you're really kind of too casual through the warm-up. So these are our big pieces that we want to hit. The principles that are going to apply into that are integrating the joints and lines, right? If I am thinking about doing a deadlift, right? It's a posterior chain movement, but I know that I have a fascial connection, a tissue connection from the bottom of my feet, right, from my big toe, all the way through my Achilles, my calf, my ankle, my hamstrings, my glutes, my erectors, my lats, all the way up really to the top of my head. And there are, I can't remember, I think there are 10 or so, maybe 12 different fascial lines that we have that run throughout our body. Anterior, posterior, superficial, more deep. There are ones that are spiral lines. So we have to keep those in mind when we're starting to go through our movements, that it's not isolated. We have to, if we just see that someone has a tight ankle, that tight ankle could be connected some way to their low back, it could be connected to their hips. So we have to start to put the movements together. So connect it off for people, integrate the joints and the lines in these movement patterns. And then we want to be progressive in nature. We're going to progress in the speed, in the intensity, in the specificity, right? We're going to go from more general dynamic movements, maybe a leg swing as a start, as a good starter type movement, that then progresses into, if we're going to do deadlifts, maybe as we start to shift a little bit more, now that leg swing becomes a good morning or a single leg deadlift specific to the movement pattern that we're going to perform for the day. And then complexity, same kind of thing. The dynamic leg swing turns into a single leg balance drill that also implements the joints and the lines and the chains that we're using for that day. So that's your pattern prep. Again, start to increase these things, start to help them feel a little bit more athletic, and put the picture together so that when they go to do the movement, it's not the first time that they've actually gone through the pattern that day. Okay, and now performance prep. Last piece of the puzzle, filling out the 3 Ps. The purpose of this last piece of the warm-up is to activate or potentiate your nervous system, right? We're trying to prime things, get wired up, get your nervous system activated, ready to explode and to move with intention, with precision, with some power. We're priming the specific patterns into some power. So if we're going to do, again, we'll use the example of the deadlift, where I did in the patterns, right? Maybe we did the good morning, right? And we established, or the single leg deadlift, that we got some movement and some connection through the posterior chain, through the hamstring, through the calf, through the low back. Now, maybe in this part of the warm-up, now we're going to do a broad jump. Now we're going to do a kettlebell swing. Something that is now more explosive, that's going to require a little bit more of me to be fully on, to be fully athletic and explosive, but isn't necessarily going to fatigue me, okay? But what the outcome of that is going to be that we're going to see a potentiated rate of force development. We're not just going through now at this point just to be strong, right? Strong can be a lot of force, but very slow through the movement. In this part, we want to develop some power, develop some rate of force development. So increase the speed with the movements that we're doing. It's not going to be a super large phase, right? Not a lot of volume involved, but very high intent. That's what differentiates, I think, the strength or even the endurance of movements and the power and the explosiveness of it is the intent. Are you moving as quickly as possible? So now we have that kind of combination of things, not a lot of reps, but very high intent, so that we feel like we're on, right? We feel like we're athletic. Again, going through these even with the low volume, but the high intent is going to give you that feeling of, I've broken a sweat a little bit, my muscles feel good, my body feels good, I'm focused, right? Some of these movements, especially if it's a jump, they require a level of presence, of me being here in the moment and focus on what the movement is. So ramping things up, moving progressively from the position prep to the pattern prep, now to the performance prep, is going to also help you and your athletes start to get themselves fully present, right? Especially if it's an early session or if they're coming off the work day, right? We always say that we kind of have to undo what people have been doing. So you're undoing what people have done, and now you're getting them fully turned on, ready for the work of the day. So remember, we have positions, we have patterns, and we have performance. 3 Ps of your warm-ups, go through all of them, take 3 or 4 minutes through, and then crush it. Single clap on me. 1, 2, 3.